Welcome to the 60th episode of the Necronama.com. I am James Sabata, horror author, screenwriter, co-host of the podcast you're listening to right now, and it kind of bothers me how much I identified with Joel McHale in this movie.
And I am Don Guillory, author, historian, educator, co-host of this podcast. And, it was strange not seeing, Kevin James in some brown IPS shorts. But we'll get to that.
Well, as long as you didn't identify with him, we'll be all right. So, joining us today is a guest I'm super, super excited about. Literally, she followed me on Twitter, and I happened to be on when it happened. I clicked her profile, I looked at her website, and I didn't even finish reading what I was reading. And I wrote her, and I was like, "You have to fucking come on my show. What do I have to do to get you here?" And then, she made me send her a bunch of candy. No, I'm just kidding. Anyway, so Gory, Cory, welcome to the show.
Thank you guys so much for having me. I'm
so excited. So first off, I just want to say, when I clicked on your site, I had absolutely no idea what to expect. I'm like, Gory, Cory, she could be a makeup artist. She could be this. She could be that. And instead, I found a website that's literally what we do on this show. It's social commentary in horror. And let's say almost a year ago, because it was last September, Don and I did this convention in Utah. And one of the things that we loved so much about this convention was that teenagers were so into the social commentary and political commentary in horror. And they were asking us better questions than any convention I did last year. And I did, 13 conventions last year, I think?
About that, yeah.
And I'm not kidding. Like, the questions from these teenagers were just light years ahead of what I was getting. And so when I saw your website, that's the feeling I came back to. And I was just like, wow. So first off, So first off, can you tell us a bit about yourself and kind of like, how did you end up doing this exact thing?
Yeah. So I'm 17 and I've always been really obsessed with horror. And, I was raised on like the Munsters and Scooby-Doo and Addams Family. And my mom is really obsessed with Halloween, and she's kind of like a crazy Halloween decorator. So we've always been kind of like the horror family. And about my freshman year of high school, so 3 years ago, I started getting really into like screenwriting, and I noticed that everything I was writing was horror, and it was really the only thing I was watching as well. So I took a USC production course, the horror production course last summer, and that was taught by Dr. Rebecca McKendry. And she kind of said, yeah, she's the best. And everyone I've ever seen do in horror.
No, we love Rebecca.
Her.
Yeah.
And one of the things she really specified in class was like, if you want to get into the horror community, just write something, make something, just, start doing stuff. So I figured I would make a blog.
That is amazing, because there's no way you could have known this. Like, Rebecca is the best person you could have brought up. Like, I worship the ground Rebecca walks on.
Oh my God, me too. She's so
she did some panels with us, and I mean, I literally find myself sitting on the panel just watching her, because it's a master class no matter what conversation you're having with her.
She's such an expert, and she's so good at like explaining it. She's just a wonderful teacher and a wonderful person.
And so I was telling Don, I was like, man, after we do this episode, I got to tell Rebecca about this girl. And here you are blowing me away again. Fantastic. I love it. So, yeah. Amazing. So what topics, like, how do you pick your topics when you want to talk about them on your site?
Usually it's just when I've talked about them enough to my friends and family to the point where they get so annoyed that I can't talk about it to them anymore. I really like talking about, social justice, social commentary in horror, because I think it's one of the only genres that like really almost any horror film you watch, you can take a ton of like social commentary, because the whole point of it is like what's socially acceptable and what's normal. So I really love that.
Awesome. And so you chose Becky, which, holy shit, what a film.
Right?
I didn't know what to expect going in. You know, I'm looking at the cast and I'm like, is this like a horror comedy? Like, you got Kevin James and Joe McHale, and I'm like, I don't know, man. But the trailer, I'm like, that's not a horror comedy exactly. Maybe like a black comedy, dark comedy kind of thing. But you know, and then I watched it, and I mean, I was watching it after midnight last night, and legitimately, my plan was I'm gonna watch 45 minutes. I'm gonna go to bed. I'm gonna get up and finish it because I've had a really busy week and I was trying to fit it in. And I watched the entire thing because I could not turn it off. And I'm so happy that I watched this because of you.
Oh, I'm really glad you liked it.
So walk me through this. Why did you pick Becky?
Yeah, I mean, when I watched it, I was like, this is the movie I've been looking for my whole life. Because I always really wanted a movie where like a teenage girl was able to be a hero without using like guns or any real weapons. And I think a lot of times movies about teenage girls, it's always like the girl next door type who's really sweet and really nice and never really has much of a really much of a character in a lot of horror. So I was really impressed by Lulu Wilson in this and how they just completely like made her character really a human being and really like a relatable teen. And I just loved seeing her take down a bunch of Nazis. That was awesome.
Look, anytime you can face off with some Nazis and you know they all have brutal deaths, I'm all for it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, you talked about how she doesn't really use guns. I think she uses one gun the whole time.
Yeah.
And yeah, the weapons. Yeah, and the weapons she makes are so cool.
Right?
And
amazing.
And it adds like this deep characterization that she's able to just like look around this room like, what can I use as a weapon? And it's definitely not conventional stuff. You know, there's like a group of colored pencils and shit like that.
Right.
And this is a ruler.
A broken off ruler.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I'm sitting here watching this going, if somebody invaded my house, would I be this creative and able to get out? I don't think so.
That's one of the great
she MacGyver's everything.
Yeah. And I think it's one of the best parts of them making her like 13, because I doubt an adult would do that, but a kid totally could.
Yeah. No, totally. Like, I don't know if you watched Home Alone ever, but like Dawn and I were raised on Home Alone, and it's this crazy film about this kid who's stuck at home and people break in and he uses what's in the house to fight them off. But it's more comedy level. It's not really horror. Well, I mean, some of it's pretty grotesque and crazy, and I still suffer from the image of one of them burning his hand. But outside of that, like, this film reminded me of what Home Alone would be if it was released today. Dawn, did you get that feeling?
Exactly.
Totally, yeah. I was listening to one of the interviews from the directors, and they said that's literally how they pitched it. It was like Home Alone if it were way more violent.
Yeah, definitely. I loved it so much. Yeah,
I'm glad they got the pitch purchase because again, that's the sense that you get from watching this film. And the great thing that Becky has to go through is they don't rely on, I guess, some of the tropes of, oh, they're in the woods and they have a bad signal, so she can't call anybody. It's a teenager who's having to deal with this change, or at least several changes in her life, and any tool that would normally be accessible to her, like the phone, she doesn't have access to because she just went outside to go get away from her dad and his girlfriend or his fiance. So she went outside, and then the bad guys went in the house while she was outside. She doesn't have anything other than what's in her I guess her treehouse.
Yeah. And I love that she didn't have to rely on the technology for it.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, you could have easily gone like overly comedic with this and had her like on YouTube trying to figure out crazy shit she could use, you know?
Oh my
So I'm
God.
really glad they didn't do that.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of funny to me, but I'm glad they didn't do that. But no, man, even backing up to like when you first see her and we get this opening scene that happens after everything and they're grilling her
Right.
on what happened. Her composure and her ability to know that she's not going to admit anything immediately
Right.
sets the tone for this entire fucking film.
Yeah.
And it's so locked down, and Lulu Wilson hits this so pitch perfect.
Incredible in this role. Amazing.
I mean, I said at the beginning that I identify too much with Joel McHale, and that's because I have 3 teenagers of my own. And I was like, I don't like this girl. And then I was like, you don't like the girl, or you don't like teenagers because you're a dad? And I was like, damn it. And then I really started paying attention to what she was doing, and Lulu just blew me away in this.
She had so many like little things in there that just were amazing. And a lot of the reviews I heard, they said that she was really unlikable and that no one really liked Becky because she was kind of angry, and like, especially in the ending, you get more of like a psychopath kind of vibe from her. But I thought she was really great, especially because like when it cuts back to the scenes with her mom or whenever she's with the dogs, she's happy. And you can see kind of how she's just been like through a lot. And that's kind of why she has all this teen angst and anger. And she's not necessarily like a bad person.
No, I agree completely. Like, it's just her trauma level. Exactly. And now she has so many defenses up. She can't even let him down around dad because dad's going to hurt her. Yeah. Like, we know dad's going to hurt her. It's in the trailer that dad's going to hurt her. Yeah. You know, like, and so she can't ever let it down except like the dogs, like you said. Mm-hmm. And the flashbacks work so well to just show that other side of her. Right. That this pain and trauma got her here.
Yeah. And you can really understand like why she is the way she is.
Oh, yeah. What were you going to say, Don?
Oh, no, I was going to say, that's kind of a frustrating thing about the audience because at least from looking at the reviews that I saw where they kind of complained about her, yeah. I watched the film and I immediately thought, what mindset was I in at 13 and 14 years old?
Jeez, yeah.
And
exactly.
I didn't know. You know, I would say a lot of people don't understand what their emotional state is or how they can deal with traumatic events until you've had a significant amount of time away from that. Now, you couple this with her mom dying from cancer, her dad moving on with his life.
In a year.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm assuming issues that she's probably had at school. She's a teenager. Like, there's so much stuff that going through. Now, you could speak more to this than we can because, you know, our teen years were 25 years ago. But to think about what you were going through. Yeah, I know. To think about what you were going through at those formative years when you were becoming a teenager, you're moving into not just adolescence, but you were moving into young adulthood and then eventual adulthood. But all those things that are changing. And now she doesn't have anyone to guide her through that because, like you said, James, she doesn't like her dad because she's now hurt because of him moving on. And it's as though she's being abandoned. Exactly. You know, she's not just losing her mom, but she's being abandoned because she doesn't see herself as the priority. Mm-hmm. And, you know, when your parents get remarried, that is some shit that you really look at and think like, well, fuck all of you because you know, it's my time. I'm the one who needs some attention. I need some help. Yeah. And unfortunately, as adults, we don't think about it that way because we get so focused on what we're going through at that time period and wanting to move on or live our lives or something. We're not thinking about what kids might be going through or even your stepkids might be going through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And just so many of the reviews I saw were saying like, oh, she's just so unlikable. And I was like, she's a kid. She's a teenager. And when you're 13, you really don't have any constants in your life, especially like he's selling the house that she loved so much as a kid that clearly is a big connection to her mom and getting remarried. And all these things are changing for her. And she doesn't really have anything to like, hold on to.
You know, I think the same people that did not like her personality are the same people that didn't like Captain Marvel.
Yeah.
because I don't really like her. She's unlikable. I'm like, I don't think you understand what she's going through. It's the same thing with that film. It's identity. Like she doesn't know who she is, and everything has been rocked as far as her past and where she's going, at least in the future, as far as determining what that's going to be. It's unknown at this point.
Yeah.
And now she has another traumatic event she has to deal with.
Exactly. And also, like, we've had so many movies and TV shows about like teenage boys that were so angry and angsty, and no one seems to comment on why they're unlikable.
No, let's talk about that. I think that's important. Okay. I think that's a super important thing you just said. There's all these teenage boy movies where they get to be as pissy as they want and they get to just be assholes, but a girl does it and oh my God, we can't allow that. Like she needs to be nice, you know, she's too aggressive.
Yeah. And even with like, if you look at the sympathy for like serial killers, like, oh, well, they were bullied. They had trouble at school. Right. That we never see that with female characters or with women. They never get any kind of excuse or any kind of like empathy.
Which is such bullshit because the people I know in life who have been bullied more than anybody are women. And I mean that on a grander level. I mean, putting up with DMs coming in that you don't want or unsolicited pictures of a certain nature or whatever else, or just the constant, you're a girl, you can't do that, you know?
And it never ends. Yeah, exactly. And so that was one thing that really bothered me about everyone kind of not liking her.
The thing is, I would argue that she doesn't need to be likable.
Oh no.
Like whether you get it or not, like this is still at its core a story of absolutely anyone trying to save their family. Yeah. And if you still don't like her when she's doing that, there's something wrong with you.
Yeah, especially when you take into account, like, she's a young child taking down a group of like prison Nazis.
Isn't that fantastic?
Nothing. Yeah, it's such a great story.
So, you know, let's kick over to Kevin James for a minute because I just want to talk about this performance and how blown away I am, because I saw so many people that were like, oh, I'm going to watch this film, but Kevin James is doing serious stuff and I don't know. I never want to see Kevin James do comedy again. Like, I want this.
He was so good in this. I loved the way he played this character. It was fantastic.
Well, and it's even when he's not talking, like his looks, like that look when they're in the back of the transport vehicle and he looks at him and he tells Apex to kill that other guy without saying a single word.
Yeah. That
is a badass look. I didn't even know Kevin James was like capable of that because I've seen Mall Cop, so I didn't think that he was.
Now I'm trying to imagine Paul Blart with that same type of mentality because, you know, I think so many people have gotten used to, I guess, one-dimensional types of characters because everything that Kevin James did was basically the same thing. It was, you know, it was a chubby, bumbling guy just trying to get through life, right? Doesn't matter what movie it was. Doesn't matter, you know, we're talking about, you know, I now pronounce you Chuck and Larry or, you know, the King of Queens, you know, anything that he was doing, it was basically the same character. And once you take him out of that, and you make him this, you know, this leader of these Aryan nation, neo-Nazi guys, whatever he happens to be doing. Maybe the issue is people are so uncomfortable with the idea that he doesn't have to play all the stupid bumbling roles. You know, maybe you are thinking about him in only one way to where that's the only thing that's going to satisfy you. Because, you know, Tom Hanks did a shitload of goofy comedic movies before he started doing serious stuff. And that was the same thing. It was like, oh, wait a second. Tom Hanks has AIDS in this movie? That's not funny.
Yeah.
And, you know, he walked up to the stage, you know, months after and accepted an Academy Award for his performance. And immediately after that, people didn't think of Tom Hanks as this comedic actor. It was like, this guy's serious. He's really good. I can't believe that he's been hiding these serious chops from us when he was doing all this goofy stuff.
Yeah.
I think that happens a lot. Like, Not that Adam Sandler's on that level at all, but I enjoy Adam's serious stuff more than his comedies. And I look at like a Jordan Peele, for instance, where he went from Key and Peele to everything he's doing in horror world now. And I mean, we've talked about this repeatedly. You guys can go back and look at past episodes if you want. But that jump from comedy to horror isn't a big one.
No.
But it feels like such a change because it's ingrained in us that this is who you are.
Yeah.
And one of the things I love most about this movie, Becky, is they did it with every cast member.
Yeah.
Like, Joel McHale is suddenly this like little teddy bear who's scared of the world, and he's like, I just want to be in love and be happy. And he's normally like a sarcastic dick like me.
Yeah, that is not a winger anymore.
And then you have, Kevin James, as we've already said. You have former wrestler Kurgan, who's Apex in this, and nobody remembers Kurgan, so that's fine. His character is nothing like this. Like, his character was a fucking joke. And Apex has so much depth to him. He's got the guilt of this thing he just did. I would argue 100% that Apex was basically rehabilitated in prison and went out doing the only thing he knew how to do and doesn't want to do it anymore.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's why we kind of sympathize with him a little more than we would like Kevin James's character.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Apex was the one I wanted to live, But when he doesn't live, I was still like, hey, I get it. 100%, So
Nazi, let's not forget that,
But yeah.
Well, James, you bring up redemption as far as with that character, and I thought that was a cool way to go with the film, as far as having this guy get this moment where he doesn't want to be like that anymore, but Becky has her chance. She's like, no, fuck you. You had all this time. You could have gotten your life together, and you still came out here and killed kids and dogs and my family.
Totally.
That's
and I love how.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so in so many movies, you see like where, especially women, but like the meeker characters point a gun at someone. They're always like, "You can't do it. You don't have it in you." And I love how she just didn't even blink.
Right.
Nope. She pulls it up and pulls the trigger, man. It's great. It's awesome. And I would argue that it would have ruined the movie if she let Apex live, because it is not in her character. It would have made no sense at all. And yeah, so like this was 100% in character. It was fantastic. So, I don't know much about the other actors in this. Like, have either of you seen The Fiancé before, or?
I don't think so.
She's been in a few things. I know she's in Handmaid's Tale and Snowpiercer and stuff like that.
Oh, okay.
But I mean, she's got a good body of work. But I think, at least with this film, this is the one thing I remember more screen time of her. And unfortunately, I haven't had the chance to see Handmaid's Tale yet, because I know she's going to be next season, I believe, on it. Because I looked up her IMDb when I was watching the film to see if I recognized her from anything. Mm-hmm. But pretty much everything that she's been in, it's been, I guess, smaller characters.
Okay.
She played this outstanding as far as, I mean, not just being the which I hate using this term, but the replacement mom.
Yeah.
Because that's how Becky would have seen her, is like, you're trying to replace my mom, because she goes so far as to say, hey, just to let you know, I'm not trying to replace. But that's how a kid is going to take it anyway. Like, you are stepping in where my mom was, and you're new. Like, you don't have that right.
I took it that way, and I was almost 30, So I was like, you're not my dad. Fuck off, So.
I really appreciate how they didn't really make her, though, like the evil stepmother or anything. Like, she was a really nice character, and she kind of sort of understood like why Becky, wouldn't like her, and she wasn't too pushy about it, I guess. So that was really nice. And I liked getting to see how she was a strong character, but she like loved her son so much. And I feel like we really often get like the quote unquote strong Black female characters, but they never get to have like any kind of like really close relationships with anyone where they get to showcase, love and any kind of feelings like that aren't anger.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, because typically it gets reduced to anger.
Yeah. And I was really glad it didn't.
I love that you just took my next notes. That was amazing. So, what I was just going to say is I loved how strong she was written. Like, she takes a fucking bullet to the leg, and she's still trying to mentally manipulate them. She's still taking care of her son. She's still hauling ass and living her life. And no matter how badass she is, like you said, she has to take care of her son first. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't feel like sometimes they make it almost like a burden that, I got my kid along, I got to take care of him before I can do this. And hers is just such unconditional love. Yeah. And that has to hurt Becky even more. Like, if Becky spent a lot of time with them and seen what a good mom she is to her son, like, how much would that suck that your mom's gone and you obviously have this huge divide with your dad? That would make me hate her even more if I was Becky.
Yeah.
You bring up family, and this would be, I guess, a good transition, at least with some of the things I had in my notes with respect to family, because I saw that as one of those themes that keeps going through, whether it's talking about losing family or creating a new family, because there's just this point where, 2 points that Kevin James's character brings forward, and it's talking about how, hey, I didn't have any children, but I created my own family. Yeah. And it made me think, one, about how people who feel isolated seek out, I guess, whatever you can deem as being worthy of their family or their new family, no matter what it is. And you see that a lot in gang culture or mm-hmm. Even in the Aryan community or the Aryan white power community, that becomes one of those standing principles of like, hey, we are going to create our own family. And he goes so far, at least earlier before that speech, to talk about racial purity with dogs and how some families are not good. Speaking of Joel McHale's family that he's forming with Kayla, like, hey, my dog was pure. But the thing is, you can't mix your dogs because you get the worst of both breeds. And just talking about, he has these rules of how families should work. Yeah. And it's just interesting to see how the indoctrination works for people that are creating these families built off of that type of ideology, and then people who are trying to build their families absent of that ideology, which is, Joel McHale's whole thing is, I need to be happy. I need to find my partner. I need to have somebody who's with me which again sounds kind of corny, and he doesn't blatantly say this, but to kind of rebuild him or to fix him. And I think I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, you can go.
Oh no, I was going to say you see this in a few films, and even you can even see this with Becky. Like, she understands that this rebuilding of the family, it might leave no space for her, so she's going to be, like I alluded to earlier, she's now going to be abandoned.
Yeah. But I think for one thing, I think it's really important to talk about how he kind of said like the best moment of his life or of his relationship with Apex was when Apex killed for him. And that's how he knew that he truly loved him. Whereas Apex betrayed him, not immediately, but ended up betraying him. Whereas all the characters in Becky's family or chosen family were willing to die for each other. And even Becky, who didn't necessarily love the stepmother too much, went after her anyways and tried to kind of save her anyways.
Well, and the stepmother, even when she and her son are out in the woods, after, Apex kind of, they're taken care of, and lets them get the hell out of there. You have this moment where the dog is running after them, but then one of the other stooges shoots the dog several times, which again, James, I'm going to bring up the whole killing dog thing. You knew that was coming.
Oh yeah.
Where when they get brought back to the house, they make this reference to Becky. I'm like, Becky was a good dog. Why did you do that to her? Just kind of letting Joel well, I keep calling him Jeff. the dad know, like, oh no, don't worry, it's not Becky that they shot, it's the dog.
Yeah.
And to even let you know, like, I have that wherewithal in my mind that I need to protect your child, who I'm accepting as my child, by not let them know that she's out there.
Totally, yeah. And that's why like their family bonds were just so much stronger than the ones that they formed in prison.
I absolutely love how Kayla quickly did that with Becky's the dog.
Mm-hmm.
That is one of the best parts of this film to me. Like, that is such higher level thinking, and what an amazing way to try to get Becky out of there.
Yeah. I was shocked they even like went after her. Not that they're bad characters, just like I would have been out, you know?
Yeah. Hey, Don, what time are we at?
30.
Thank you. Sorry, I got stuck and I was going to say something and I lost it. 30 minutes. All right. Go ahead, guys. You can continue.
I also really like the imagery of her using like her art supplies to kill the Nazis, like the colored pencils and that kind of stuff, because I thought that was really nice, and how like she used her imagination, I guess, to kill them.
Well, and it ties into her mom as well, because her mom loved art. And so I went on like this symbolic weird place, because that's what I do as an author, where I was like, that's kind of like mom helping you, because these could be from mom, you know, like,
right.
I don't know. I thought that was kind of interesting.
I really like that. Yeah. What did you guys think about the significance of the key?
The key bothers me.
I knew this was coming.
So I have this.
All right, James, why?
I have this fascination with horror where I don't want answers to everything.
Mm-hmm.
It's
okay.
We talk about it in panels about how I believe that horror is the best genre for social commentary because we don't get answers to everything.
Yeah.
Because when you don't have answers, your brain keeps working on things, trying to solve problems, whether you're intentionally thinking about it or it's just happening, right? And so what horror does is it gives you like these little nuggets, like Get Out, for instance, gives you these little things, and your brain keeps working on the problem, but it keeps bringing back these issues as well. And so the social commentary basically gets planted in your brain. And the key bothers me because as much as I don't like answers,
you want that.
I want something more than I need a key. Like,
I just don't know what it could open that they wouldn't be able to like open themselves. Like, you can open doors that are locked without the key. I don't understand why they couldn't break the lock somehow, you know, if they really are using this key to open a literal lock.
Well, and if it really plays into...
problem I have with the key.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, and I was going to say that when you go, not that I've gone, but I know that when you go to jail or prison, you typically surrender items that are in your possession, and it's held until you get out. So, I mean, if you happen to show up to jail for processing to transportation to prison, you have personal effects that will stay locked up for you until you get out. No one's going to look at a key and say, oh, that's fucking interesting. You know what? I need to take this key and find out what it goes to. It's simply, all right, we got one key. We got, a pair of shoes. We have a CD player, a pair of sunglasses, some ridiculous stuff that you'd find on a scavenger hunt. But it's, we left it in this cabin in the woods and we need to come here to get. So that was like one of the problems I had with it too, James. It seemed like a weird plot hole to have because there's so many other things that could have been done. Like you said, Cory, if it was something that opens something, you can pick a lock. Yeah, you can get somebody else to open it. I mean, the only thing I can think is, maybe it gets them back to the Aryan spaceship that takes them to, another planet with just them. I don't.
Like copies of this key too, and hid them all over because if someone finds it, they're not going to know what it goes to. No one's going to look at it and be like, "Oh, right. The key."
Well, and if you want it to stay hidden, I don't think that where they put it is a good idea, because if you find that, there's something going on with this key. Whereas if it was just randomly somewhere, no one would pay any attention to it.
Yeah.
You could hang it on my key thing in front of my kitchen and no one would ever look at it again.
Yeah, exactly.
No, but I also, doesn't he like make some speech about how it ties into his Aryan stuff? Because like what could you open that does that?
I don't know. I mean, I guess this is about Becky and not the key, but I just wanted something.
Yeah, it's weird to me. Like, even if there was a very, very limited anything that made sense, I would feel better about it. But it's like, it's too wide open.
It was an original printing of Mein Kampf signed by Adolf Hitler. That was what it was.
Like, it has his half-chewed cyanide pill in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
That's my fantastic. Best friend.
Oh.
And Dominic, you used his art long. Supplies? Oh, anyways. Man. But yeah, no, the whole time, and the key is so special.
Yeah.
Like, he literally has the symbol tattooed on him. So I took that to mean that it's a definite white power thing. Right? Because all of his other tattoos are. So this key has to have something to do with white power. And I cannot, for the life of me, figure out what the hell it would be.
I mean, I looked up the symbol, and it's from like Norse mythology, and it means like getting back to God or something. It's kind of unclear, but it's apparently been kind of like taken by white supremacists to mean like that they hate people of color. It's just odd. I really wonder if they'll make a sequel or something where Becky like finds whatever it opens.
That's the only thing I could think of. I was like, at least it leaves everything open for a sequel.
Yeah.
Becky 2, Chipmunk. I don't know. Like, oh man, I got to tell you guys, I absolutely adore this chipmunk thing that happens during this film, because I have 3 sons. And for the longest time, the middle one was the only one that had glasses. So they've always been my chipmunks. And now, like, one's 18 and lives on his own, and one's 16, and one's like, turning 15 soon. And they put up with my chipmunkness, but like, I know that they don't like it, and oh man, that like ripped at me. And so then when she goes back and she finds her dead father's body, and she's like, it's me, it's Becky, it's Chipmunk.
Yeah. I
was like, oh my God, why did you do this to me? But yeah. I love how much that one thing says about their relationship.
Yeah.
Like, it says that she thinks he still views her as a little kid.
Mm-hmm.
And it says all this other stuff with it. And she's like, she's almost viewing herself as an adult because of everything she's gone through.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
And that little fight over a single nickname is so powerful.
Yeah.
Don, do you have a cool nickname?
No, I never had a cool nickname ever. And if I did, I definitely wouldn't reveal it on the podcast, so that when we have conventions in the future, someone could actually call me that. Nope.
If you send me enough money, I will tell you his nickname so that you can do it.
It's a scam. It's a con, because James doesn't even know.
I'm going to share the money with you.
Send me double. I'll actually tell you, but you have to sign a confidentiality agreement.
You can
but no, the nickname that is a powerful scene, or powerful interaction that takes place, because it's to take it a different level or a different direction. For me, it was like the Lion King scene between Simba and Mufasa, where's the get up, Dad. That moment where I was sitting there like, oh shit, she's got her moment. This is not all right. Let me just hold on there, because there is that moment where it's not just about the fact that her dad is dead; it's the fact that she's alone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, like, their last interactions were just not great.
Yeah.
And
But even then, I mean, the dad, even I wouldn't say that he knew he was going to die, but his hopes were very slim.
Yeah.
Because even as he's being tortured, he says, Becky, run as fast as you can. It's not even this thing of like, sweetie, I love you or anything. It's just like, get the hell out of here now. One, I don't want you to see this. And then two, I don't want them to find you.
Yeah.
So it shows that she is a priority for him.
It's such a parent level thing too. It's just that absolute unconditional, I will go through literal hell to get you to safety.
Yeah.
Like, I'll stay here and get tortured. Get the hell out of here.
And I love that the single dad was the one to do that.
Yeah, definitely.
Also, I don't know if this might not be a good point, but didn't Kevin James' character have like an eagle, I think, tattoo? He had some kind of bird of prey tattooed, and I thought it was interesting how she was like the chipmunk and she was able to defeat him.
Oh, I didn't know
That's
that.
beautiful.
But yeah, he would have had I forgot what it's called, but the German.
Yeah,
not the German. The Nazi eagle that gets used in a lot of the imagery and the symbolism that they use. Either that or a hawk, but I believe it was an eagle.
One of those things that eats chipmunks. I don't know.
Yeah, no, either way, that is absolutely beautiful. And I would not have made that connection. That's great.
I'm not even sure if I'm just like reading into that too much, but
there's no such thing as reading into things too much on the show.
That's impossible to read into that too much because I think that's a great reading of it.
Oh yeah. No, that's fantastic. Go ahead.
There was one funny part for me. I almost had to stop the movie because I was laughing and I almost screwed up as far as paying attention. And it brings us back to the key when Becky gives him the key. She gives Kevin James Dominic the key. And
where's the key?
I was even thinking to myself, like, she's going to stab him in the fucking eye with this thing or in the chest or he's going to do something. She's going to do something. She stabs him in the eye with the key and it causes his eye to come out of his head.
That was so great.
And then it's followed up with, he's like, oh, it hurts. I can't see out of it. Just cut it off. Just cut it off. And one of his henchmen goes and grabs children's scissors.
Yes.
And can't cut the optic nerve. And that moment where Kevin James, that's the only comedic part Kevin James I felt got to be on the screen was he sees the scissors. He's like, what the fuck are you doing? God damn, I'll just do it myself. And picks up, a butcher knife and cuts off the eye.
And holy shit, what a moment.
Yeah, it just went from these bumbling asshole racist bigots to where I'm kind of like, you guys don't intimidate me at all. Like, you're just all stupid. You're all stupid and just ridiculous.
That and actually...
go ahead. Oh. No, I was going to say, and none of them would be tough if they were by themselves. It's the fact that they are in this group together, they're in this family, that they can go ahead and be these tough guys.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. It's a lot like the cult leader versus cult members kind of thing. Like, they would really not be anything without him.
Yeah, totally. I also love, as he's walking into the room, he kind of looks up at the one henchman that's sitting at the table and he's like, well, I hope you're enjoying your snack.
Yeah.
But yes. What I was going to say is what you were just saying about how they're all powerless without each other. It drives me nuts that white supremacists are almost always people that look like Stephen Miller or like you're trying to tell me that the supreme being looks like Roger Stone.
Looks like someone been bred for generations.
And so the fact that Kevin James is the leader who thinks that he's so superior to everybody and he's still the pudgy white guy with the bald head and the big beard. But like at the end of the day, come on, you're the best that anything has to offer. Like at least Apex is over here looking like a god walking around on the planet. You know, like how in the fuck do white supremacists always look like leftover turds, and they think that they're somehow so superior to everyone else? And it's an ongoing thing. It's so crazy to me.
They need something to make up for that insecurity.
Right?
To convince themselves that they're not ugly.
Well, you know, Kevin James, I keep wanting to call him, I'm sorry, Dominic, because no matter what, I'm going to have it. Yeah. Dominic, portrayed by Kevin James, when he does give that speech about pure breed versus mixed and all this other stuff, I immediately thought to the misconceptions that we have with regard to breeding and with regard to race.
Yeah.
One, you know, a lot of the times that, you know, racial supremacists will make this argument about how, you know, you can't mix, you know, races, you can't breed with another. I'm like, I get, you know, when we get down to it, yeah, we are animals, but you're dehumanizing people when you start talking about breeding.
Yeah.
But then two, when you keep purebred animals, the most fucked up genetics are the ones that get more pronounced.
Yeah.
Which she says, oh, if you mix them together, the worst qualities of each come forward. I'm like, no, it's actually the other way. The more you inbreed these animals, the more debilitating diseases you're going to have. You know, there's not this variety of immunity. There's all these genetic defects that take place. Mm-hmm. And, you know, it's one of those things where people are trying to use that as an excuse to argue why they themselves are superior, which is, I've never been mixed with anything. Which if you take, I forgot the statistics that were out there, but it says something to the effect of like, there are only certain regions of the world where people can actually argue that they are somewhat pure, but it was never even 100%. It was like 98% this ethnic, you know, this background, this ethnicity. And then that 2% was something else. Mm-hmm. But I love when neo-Nazis end up taking those DNA tests and they find out like they're 4% black or something. Yeah. And then they can't go to the meetings anymore.
Aw, sad day.
Oh, yeah.
You know, but really, like, if you had like a Channing Tatum or an Ariana Grande trying to tell me that they were genetically superior, yeah, okay. I might be able to buy into that. But yeah, I look around, man, and I see Twitter, and I'm just like, no, you're not. No.
I mean, a lot of it stems from like insecurities and toxic masculinity. So.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
I doubt that you're going to get
definitely
like really secure with themselves.
That's the thing. If you're secure with yourself, you're more open to everyone else anyway.
Yeah.
What were you going to say, Don?
Oh, no, I was going to say the one thing is that Cory brought up was it does involve a lot of misogyny and a lot of sexism that gets brought into it, because the men are often arguing that they need these women to keep their line pure, and that women are devalued, at least women of their background are devalued if they happen to have mixed at one point or happen to have a mixture of another blood in them or something. So it's one of those things where they start to denigrate any of the women that might have, you know, had relations with someone from a different background, which it's a funny thing to even think about, because there are websites that these guys have created that are meant to warn their fellow, you know, white Aryan men, whatever, stay away from these women, because these women are known to have mixed or have mixed children or married somebody else. And so it's all these guys self-reporting women that they've dated, gone out with, met, worked with, whatever, and putting up links to their social media to say, hey, if you find this girl on Tinder, don't engage with her because she's gone out with black guys and Mexicans and Jews and whatever. And, you know, if you're planning on having kids, this is going to, you know, fuck up your genetic line.
Yeah, I'm sure that those girls are so upset when they do that, because they were clearly looking to go out with people from the Aryan Brotherhood.
I know, they're brokenhearted.
Oh, yeah.
I guess what we're trying to say here is make sure that you date diversely so that these guys leave you the fuck alone, everyone.
Yeah.
Oh, they will leave you alone and be like, wait a sec. But there were people that I went to college with, no, they weren't neo-Nazis, but they had that same ideology, which was, hey, if I find out, a girl I'm interested in was dating a black guy or dating a Hispanic guy, I'm not going to talk to her anymore. And my question was always like, why? What's the difference? It's like, well, I just don't want to have to deal with any problems or any issues. And I'm like, well, what problems and issues? And it was really just a holdover of all this nonsense that people have been arguing since the antebellum period, which was, oh, you have to keep your racial line pure and all this other nonsense. But they didn't realize they were spitting that stuff back out. But they were using it as a thing of, hey, my parents wouldn't be okay if I was dating somebody who had dated somebody of this background.
That's insane to me. Or even like, when like white women will date like one person of color, they'll be like, oh, well, that's her type. Like she likes black guys. And it's like, she could date 5 white men and then date 1 black man, and people will stereotype her as like only liking people because of their race.
Yep.
Right.
That's so weird to me.
Well, I mean, I understand the guy side of this, the whole, oh, she's ruined, because men are so completely insecure that we can't handle that.
Yeah.
You've slept with somebody before us because, oh no, what if we don't compare to them? I'm not a man. So, oh my God, can you imagine having to compare to a Jewish guy or a black guy? Or, oh no, like these are terrible things. What if they're better than me? And I mean, it's so insane to me. I don't know. My open response is always, basically, that's what we're trying to say.
I'm sorry, boys are big babies. Men don't give a shit.
That's true. So like take my wife, for instance, like she dated a lot of people who made a lot of money, right? Like, I mean, we're talking like high up people at like Yahoo, basically, right? Or different places like that. And like when we started dating, I had like a real inferiority complex with it because I was like, she's used to these guys that can take her to really nice places or go on trips wherever, and I was like teaching at the time. So you know how much money I was making? None. And so like she just looked at me one day and she's like, am I with them or am I with you? And like, It just like instantly clicked. And I mean, that's like 11 years ago now, but like, that's always my response to people now. I'm like, who the fuck cares where somebody's been before you? Like, they're not there. They're here with you.
And like, they're deciding to be there with you. So clearly they're not like going to try and compare you to like other people that they've dated.
Right. It's very odd. It's like, she doesn't like you because you're an Aryan Brotherhood man. So
like, you had to worry about going out with her anyway, man.
Oh man. Don, I wanted to point out one of your biggest fears in life. You always tell me that the scariest thing in the world are little white girls. And like, we talk about the little white girl in the
I don't own the trademark to that one. That is a black horror movie trope. But I do co-sign it.
So tell me about the teenage white girl, Don. Did she terrify you as much?
Well, here's a couple of elements that you have to throw in here.
Yes,
and I actually wrote this one down.
I'm totally messing with you.
No, I know you are. But I had to write this one down, and it was, since there was the overt discussion of race and racism that was in this one, I was just thinking to myself, like, black people don't go to the woods. What the fuck is this? I mean, that was my first thought when the girlfriend, soon-to-be fiance, and her son showed up. I was like, black people don't go to the woods. We don't go to cabins and all this other stuff. Maybe as like a big group, but not, I'm going to drive myself and my child up into the woods to meet my boyfriend and his daughter and hang out for the weekend or however long they were going to be there. But no, this is one of these things, even though James is joking about the little white girl or the teenage white girl in this film, if they flip this and like, let's say the second one, is she's escaped CPS or Child Protective Services and she's ended up living up in the woods, then it really becomes a scary thing. You've already seen what she's capable of.
Yeah.
And the sheriff at the end of the film makes that comment with I guess the school psychologist or the therapist who was there and said, I'm really concerned about, the things that she's seen or the things that took place. And the sheriff says, I'm more concerned with the things that she did.
Yeah.
And that's what's there. We clearly can see what she has done and what she's capable of. Whereas that trope of the little white girl by herself is always, I don't know why she's here, what she's up to, who, if this is a trap or, anything that could, because I'm here by myself with this young child and someone could think any number of things. Yeah. Like I could mean harm to her, or because if a child screams, it could be any child for that matter. But if a child is alone with an adult, even in a public area, and that child starts screaming or makes a scene, you immediately become the target of whatever that child is claiming. Mm-hmm. And here it's great because you start to see what this young girl can do. And it has nothing to do with this mystery or some metaphysical thing about her, which you would see in a lot of other films. It's the fact that this kid had a lot of angst built up and she released it on people who definitely deserved it.
Yeah.
But people on the outside are going to see that as, this is a child who just fucking murdered 4 people.
But again, like, they were Nazis, so
yeah.
I feel like she's morally obligated to, like, as an American, that's like your duty, punch a Nazi.
I 110% agree with that one because, for 2 reasons. One, the Nazis killed the dog.
Yeah.
And 2, or I should say 1, they're Nazis, and 2, they killed the dog, but you can flip those however you want. But the whole idea of Nazis are not nonviolent people. Like if these were, let's say, the groups that have problems with race, like some religious groups that have problems with race, or at least have an interesting history with respect to their beliefs associated with race, they don't act upon it violently. They might act upon it as far as, I'm going to go one aisle over at the grocery store because there's a black family, I'm kind of concerned. Or, there were some FLDS people that were on a TV show a while back. And the first time they saw indigenous people, they freaked out. And my wife brought this up to me because she was laughing. And I'm like, what the hell are you watching? It's like, well, it's this show about these FLDS people that are trying to adjust to society. And it's the first time they've been out of the compound. I'm like, okay, well, cool. What's happening? Yeah, they saw some Navajo people and they got really scared. And it wasn't anything like the people were dressed up in a certain way or they were aggressive. It was simply these guys were walking down the street and they had darker skin. And one of the young ladies turns to another one and says, please, you have your underwear on, right? You do have your underwear on. And I didn't know that much about it. I'm like, why the hell is she asking about underwear? And earlier in the episode, they had explained that they had to make sure that it had the right type of underwear on to protect them when they were out in public.
What?
And so she was freaking out and saying, please tell me you wore your underwear today. I wore mine. Please, I don't want anything bad to happen to us.
So it's like a chastity belt or like lucky underoos?
I think it's just like a religious garment. But it's just one of those things that there's nothing violent that they would do, but there's an issue of insecurity about being around people like that. That bothers me a whole lot less than someone whose entire ideology is based off of, you look different, I must kill you.
Yeah, exactly.
And as far as I'm concerned, if you have those beliefs, I'm not sympathetic about anything that happens to you. In fact, every time one of these guys died in the movie, I laughed my ass off.
Same.
Especially Kevin James's death.
Oh, that was a good one. And like the Inglourious Bastards reference with the fire was so good.
Oh, man. That was fantastic. Yeah, let's talk about the deaths. I want to talk about one of my favorite scenes, and it leads to a death. So when, I don't remember his name, but the one henchman is like trying to cut a deal to get the key.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
that was awesome.
I love this scene because it's Cole. It's so realistic. It's like, fuck this kid. Like, I don't want to deal with this. Like, just give me the key. Like, I can't go back. He's going to like fuck me up if I don't bring him the key. So can you just give me the key and I'll let you go? Because I don't care about you.
Yeah.
You know, like, and it's not like one of those situations where you saw my face, I have to kill you, even though they just directly say that. But like, your faces are all over TV. Everybody knows who's doing
definitely.
this. You know, so like, it's not even that. It's fine, kid, go. Just give me the key. Like, make this easy. And I love that, like, he buys it. She's like, oh, okay. And he's like, really? Cool, you know? And then all hell breaks loose and we get this great kill scene.
Oh my God. The zip line.
The zip line is such a great touch. It's so ridiculous. Like, she could have, like, just kicked open the door and, like, gone Rambo on him. But no, the zip line makes it so much better.
Oh my God, yeah. It was so cool. And that was one of those moments where I was like, wow, I want to be her. Like, that's amazing.
I love how it's not even weird to him that she went to the roof. He's just like, oh, okay, cool. There she is.
Yeah. I also loved the boat death.
Yes.
That was awesome.
You know, when they went to the dock, I was hoping, I'm like, please let there be an outboard motor scene. Please, I see a boat. Please don't make it as simple as this guy trips and falls on the nails.
Exactly. When I saw the boat, I was like, oh my God, just please, like, turn on the motor. And she did, and I was so glad, because she could have just let him drown because he couldn't swim, but no.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's so purposeful, you know, the way she stares him down while she's driving towards him. Right.
Yeah, I like both options there, because one, it would have been interesting if she just sat there and watched him drown.
Oh yeah, that actually would have been really fun.
But I mean, it works either way, because she has that that stone cold stare as she's doing this, where it's kind of like, no, I'm going to watch you die. I'm going to watch what happens to you, as opposed to what we see in a lot of movies where if a kid ends up having to kill like the home invaders or whatever, they kind of look away. Like, they might pull the trigger on the gun and look away as they're doing it because they don't want to see that violence. They don't want to see that gore. And she's sitting there like, man, I only have 4 of you to kill? Shit.
I gotta read this last. Yeah, that's one of my favorite things about the movie that really like drew me to it, was because she was not at all one of those characters that like, oh, I have to kill people. I don't want to see it. Like, she was just down to kill them.
Right? She was like looking for a reason to kill before she got there, I think. Yeah. No, there's no like usually there's at least that moment like, can I do this? Or
no hesitation.
Yeah, none. She's like, zip line, stab you to death, motherfucker. You know, like, so great.
I want to make this a Christmas movie now.
Oh my God.
We're just trying to go back to Home Alone. That's all this is.
No, I just look, that's the way it was pitched. So I want this to be that the way that Home Alone could be done today, because I mean it fits perfectly. I mean, let's just make. I'm sure there's some Christmas lights in the house somewhere. We'll claim it's a Christmas movie.
One thing I really like is you brought up the nails and how that didn't instantly kill the guy, so she had to come up with something new. I love that her plans don't necessarily work.
Right.
Like
how she plans it though, too. Like everything she puts into the plans is stuff that I would never even think of.
Oh yeah. But I mean, even like early on, like with the walkie-talkies, when she's like, I called the cops, you better start running, you know, like that's pretty good for her age. Like, that's pretty impressive. And then he's just like, yeah, no, you didn't, because I have your phone. And she's like, well, shit, you know?
Right.
I don't know. But even from there, like, it doesn't work, but these are such good plans, even though they don't work. And then her ability to up it from there is just really, really good.
Yeah, and in the moment, too, like, completely, I guess, improv, like, ways to kill these people.
Man, I just keep thinking about her driving that boat. I love that look. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, even as she started to do this, there's that moment where Apex like stops her, or at least they have their interaction, and Apex basically, oh fuck it, this is stupid. You know, he just stops and he's kind of like, you know, I used to do this. I did, you know, I don't like who I became. And he has this weird, like, fatherly moment with her where he's telling her, like, you don't want to be like me. Like, I lost who I was. I started doing stuff. And he thinks back to when he killed those kids, or is assuming that he killed the kids in the car. He's like, I don't want to do that. I got so many stains on me. Like, it doesn't wash out, which, you know, was kind of a really cool Lady Macbeth reference.
Yeah.
Where he's like, I can't get away from this. You don't want to be that way. And I thought it was a cool touch where this guy who had spent the past 10 years in prison, probably killed people when he was in prison, killed people when he came out, and killed people, of course, on the escape. But he has this moment where it's like, all this shit I've been doing is wrong. You know, this guy who's been my friend or father figure for me in prison has been asking me to do all these crazy things. I couldn't kill the kid and the mom earlier. I'm not going to kill you. I don't want to live with that stuff anymore. This isn't me. And he initially walks away. And it's this moment where you start to question, well, is she going to hesitate? And you'd never see her like overcome with, yeah, I'm going to think about this. I'll bargain with you to leave and let Kayla and her kid go and leave me alone. Get the hell out of here. I'll give you the key. There's never that moment where you have that interaction.
Yeah. And I loved that. I loved how she didn't listen to like any of them, especially like, because the entire time they're like, sweetheart, you know, just give us the key. Or even when Dominic says like, I'm going to talk to you like an adult, because in like, I hear that so often. It's just so annoying. But and even in the end, when he was telling her like, I see you and you're an orphan now, I love how she just didn't listen to a single one of them. None of the authority figures. Like, she just didn't hesitate, and she knew exactly what she wanted.
Well, and I don't think that it would feel realistic if she did listen. You know, like, it's just not something you do at that age anyway. And and it's not the same kind of thought process either. You know, like, even yourself at 17, like, you have a very different thought process than a 13-year-old does, you know? So there's no way somebody Apex's age is having the same sort of thought process, plus all of his life experiences and all of that kind of stuff. Like, she's just like, why are you telling me this, old man? Yeah. You know, like, I got people to kill. Get out of my way. But how much would you guys love a sequel where it was her and Apex? I mean, wouldn't that be fun? Like, taking out people together.
Where they're just walking down the street and saying like, no. If you're going to kill, this is the way you do it. We're gonna reboot The Professional, but less of a pedophile story.
That would be really fun, actually.
It's just Becky trying to kill people, and Apex keeps like trying to stop her the entire film.
Yeah.
These muffins were not fresh.
That guy looked at me weird in PE class, you know?
Yeah, Becky's gonna rule the school now that this is happening. She's not gonna let anyone mess with her.
Can you imagine though, like, you know, she does this whole thing with the beginning and the end of the film where, like I said earlier, like, she's denying what happened, acting like she has no idea. Mm-hmm. Everybody knows what she did, right? So, like, I look at this from a completely different viewpoint. I get why she's doing what she's doing. But, like, there's part of me that's like, she would be hailed as such a fucking hero because you took out these 4 guys that escaped from prison who were a huge threat to everyone in the area, and you did it yourself. Yeah. While doing it for a heroic reason to save your family.
But think about
what's left of them.
Think about, like, in real life, like, people that kill their rapists or like anything like that, they're always put into jail for it. Even people that are like kidnapped, if they kill their kidnapper, women usually, like, they get put into prison and they all get called like crazy psycho killers.
And that's the key right there, because it's females that have this happen.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
It's always women. It's always girls who fight back against the system and they get punished.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because recently, I think Centoya Brown, I believe was her name, was just released this year because she had killed her rapist.
And
when she was around 13, 14.
Who she was as a sex slave as well.
Yeah. And it boggles my mind how people are allowed to, I guess, excuse putting her in jail and saying like, well, she did kill him. Like,
And it's like, well, no.
Obviously, this person's defending herself from sexual assault and sexual violence. I don't care if she happened to have been a sex worker by choice.
Yeah.
You shouldn't even regard it that way. Because there does become that devaluing of the female existence, the female body, based off of how good or how bad they are, or how close to good that a woman or a young girl may be. Because you see the same thing where, I'm sure you've probably seen the same thing as far as young ladies around your age and younger that are immediately deemed problems because of, exercising the same thoughts or actions that guys have.
Totally. And even like being a girl that likes horror, like I'm always told I'm like weird and crazy and insane. And it's like, well, no one ever says that to like guys that like horror.
Well, here's what we're going to say, and I'm going to speak for James on this one. Be fucking weird. If that's what they're saying about you, just be fucking weird. And this is for anybody else who is in the same position as Cory. Be weird. Because you know what? If their standard of normal is whatever the hell they're claiming it is, you don't want to be normal.
Totally. It is way more fun to be weird.
What's that thing I always say? Normal is a setting on a washing machine.
Yep.
I like that.
There's another great quote from American Horror Story. Normal people scare me. And it's completely true. Like, if you really break down what's normal, it's terrifying to me because it's usually people totally conforming to this thing and giving up their individuality. And it's people not having anything interesting, and it's creepy as fuck.
And also think about people like Ted Bundy. Like, he seemed pretty normal.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
That's another thing about this movie I liked, where she was an individual taking down like so many people in kind of a hive mind setting.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, even that's another great reason to take out Apex, because I kind of got the feeling at parts that it was going to be like Apex helps her survive, and I really didn't want to see that.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad they didn't go there and they let her come into this on her own and just really fucking just take everybody out. Because that would have killed it.
Yeah, because we were about to have this ridiculous, a ridiculous trope that's included in not just horror films, but a good number of films from different genres, where you have this person who is bad and they redeem themselves somehow, because he partially saves her at the end by bulldozing through Dominic and knocking him down. But you've seen this with a couple of movies like Three Billboards. I forgot the town, but Three Billboards over whatever, Missouri, where one of the police officers who's like a racist and sexist, like he's done a lot of bad stuff. And by the end of the movie, he's like, I want to help you find your daughter. Let me go help you. And you're sitting there thinking like, no, you're still a piece of shit.
Yeah.
Exactly. And even with Apex, it's like, dude, you still came out here and did the stuff that you did. Mm-hmm. How are these cute little words that you said going to redeem who you are?
Yep.
How is it going to undo all the stuff that's taken place here?
Exactly. And when he says like, might save me or something, or like might redeem me, and she just shoots immediately, I was like, yeah.
What do you know? It might save me too. Boom. I loved it, because it's kind of like, I'm done with hearing this little sob story that Apex has. This is not American History X, where you realize how fucked up things were, and then you actually did something about it and went back to your neo-Nazi brothers and called them out.
Yeah.
So we've talked about the others and we've alluded to it a little bit. Cory, tell me how much you love Kevin James's death.
Oh my God, it was amazing. That was one of my absolute, all the deaths in this movie are so good, but that was great. I loved it.
I mean, when she first gets on the lawnmower and takes it out there, I'm like, well, that's a cool little vehicle. And then I was just like, oh shit, fantastic. That
was just so epic. And I also just the whole scene where she sits there with like the marshmallows was so great.
Everything about this film is so good, and it just absolutely surpassed all of my expectations for it. But really, I'm just hoping we get more stuff like this, because it almost bordered on like a throwback to the old like rape revenge films, only without going there, thank God.
Right.
And but you know, just that whole like girl who seems sort of powerless, like it's to take everybody out for what they did to her. And I mean, they kind of do. Like, they emotionally rape this girl. They took her dad. They're taking everything that's important to her, and they're trying to kill her. But like, this is sacred ground to her as well. This is her connection to her mom. And I mean, it was so important to her that she hasn't been talking to her dad much because she thought he was going to sell it. And now these guys have completely ruined it. It's now the place where her dad died. It's the place where this terrible thing happened to her. And I mean, so I would put it on the same level as rape revenge films, except it's better than those.
Definitely.
And
stronger.
Yeah, go ahead.
Feminist, I think. It's less misogynist than a lot of rape revenge films are.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Rape revenge films are usually, you know, very much what's my fantasy of the girl who would fight back, you know? Like, yeah. It's a lot of male gaze and just absolute.
This, I thought, was like perfectly not that.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was so well done.
But yeah, I love how it's kind of a throwback to that, but kind of a slasher. And it's kind of all these different things, and it just works so well together. And in our last episode, we talked a lot about like merging genres and how people are kind of doing all these different little things. And I think that that's strengthening things so much. And then you add this level of having a protagonist that we don't normally see.
Yeah.
We don't normally get. If we get a teenage girl, we get a teenage girl who's like, you know, played by a 21-year-old and she's supposed to be 16. Mm-hmm. And Lulu is legitimately 13 when she's filming this film, you know, and that in itself is refreshing. But then you took a 13-year-old instead of a 17 or an 18-year-old, because I would expect them to have more life experience and to be more able to do this. And wow, man, putting this on a 13-year-old and having her come through like this is just phenomenal.
And they did it, like, it worked so well because they used the fact that she was 13 to help her, you know, with all of her creativity and with all of the things she did. Those are not things that like a 17-year-old would do. Mm-hmm. So I really liked how they used so much of the 13-year-oldness, I guess, like the youngness of her to help with her kills.
Well, even not having that life experience that things don't work out the way you plan. Yeah. Like, I really feel like somebody more your age would overthink these things.
Yeah.
It would be, this isn't going to work because of this. Whereas she doesn't have that. Yeah. She's like, I built shit out of Legos like 2 years ago. Like, let's do this, you know? So, I'm kidding. But
yeah. Legos on the floor.
I was playing with Legos earlier today. What do I know? But yeah, Legos would have been great. That's always a great weapon of choice. Can you imagine just taking somebody and slamming their face into a pile of Legos?
Yeah.
Ouch.
Instant death.
We're gonna start writing the Lego Killer right after this.
All right. I would be remiss if I did not mention the Michel Foucault comparisons, or at least discussion that takes place on screen, where the film, it shows these shots of the school and the prison, at least what's taking place there, the violence, the turmoil, and it's interesting to think about how these two places are structured, where you have a schedule, you have the groups that form as far as the cliques, the administration. Like, prison and schools are exact copies of each other as far as the way that they're run. I mean, there are, of course, some differences with the amount of movement that people are allowed. But I think it's a great way to see the structure that both of these people are going through. Speaking of Becky and Dominic, as far as the structure that they're surrounded with, the surroundings that they're surrounded with, and the way that the school and the prison work to confine them, and they have to figure out how to work within that confinement to where when they're in the woods, they're using all of those things that they've kind of had as coping mechanisms in prison or in school to deal with this wide open ranging area where they have a lot more freedom to do what they want to do to one another, or at least trying to accomplish those goals. But yeah, all I thought when I saw those scenes overlapping was Michel Foucault. He's sitting there. He's thinking about the way things are and why, you've got these social constructs that get created to control us. And then what happens when you don't have them? You could throw in Freud as well and say, talk about how family then becomes that other construct there to control, to set up boundaries, to create these ways to have a schedule and determine where you fit, not just within school environment or within prison, but where you fit within this familial structure.
Yeah, definitely.
What do you guys think?
Go ahead, Cory.
I agree. I really liked the parallels that they did between the prisons and the school systems, because while those are obviously very different, I did really agree. And I've been to schools that have literally been designed by prison architects, and they're pretty similar. And I really liked that. And I thought it was interesting that they kind of brought that in. And I guess in my mind, I was like, that's almost kind of, I kind of felt like the Cooties, a little bit of a comedy vibe from it. But because I honestly just thought that was kind of funny. Yeah. What about you?
So the first thing I want to say is this will surprise Dawn, but Discipline and Punishment is one of the best books that I read while I was in college. And so Michel Foucault has a special place in my heart just because of that. It's been a long time since I've been in a school, and mine was definitely not like a prison, but I certainly felt like it was. Mine might work more like a white collar prison because I went to a Catholic school that really liked anybody that had money, which was not me. And people got away with things if their parents made the right donations or things like that. So maybe it compares more on that level.
Yeah.
Don, what do you think about that?
I was going to say you can pay off the guards at a regular minimum, maximum, or medium security prison.
Yeah,
it doesn't have to be club fed.
I mean, we didn't even have uniforms though, so that's just because I went to school so long ago. It was the 1800s. It was a wonderful time.
Oh my gosh! Here we go.
No, I mean, I look at, my son's talking about school or different things like that. And I feel like there's also, we put so many constraints on teens and we have so much authority, and authority always works like prisons does, where there's the punishment or the really harsh consequences, even parents today do this great thing called I'm taking your phone away.
Oh God, yeah.
And for a parent like people my age, a phone isn't the end of the world because we grew up without them. And I don't think that parents truly comprehend how much of the world you're cutting off from a person when you take their phone away. And how much you're taking away the social context of what phones are in today's world to teens. And I get the punishment, and I get that I feel like there should be a happy middle ground there. It should be more like I'm limiting your time on your phone or something like that, because I do feel like that is really prison-y. It's really cutting you off from all of society. And that's where I was trying to wrap around to this is I almost feel like that is more prison-like than anything else that we can do. And my question to you, Cory, is from the opposite point of view. Do you agree with that? Do you think I'm onto something here?
Yeah. I mean, I use my phone 24/7. And it really is that's where I get all my news, and that's where I talk to everyone. And it's really weird to not have it. I've when I went to summer camp as as a kid, it wasn't as bad because there were people around me. But like, if you ground your kid and you don't let them leave the house and you take their phone, that's just completely, I wouldn't say it's like prison level, but it certainly is cutting them off from the world outside.
Well, I don't even necessarily mean it's exactly prison level, but I mean, I really feel like for a teen, that's that same feeling as being locked away, you know, like right. the emotional equivalent.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. Don, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I agree with you on that because it's another layer, another level of control as far as controlling communication, controlling access, and you could even say controlling of movement because, you don't have the physical movement, but you have the movement as far as connecting with the outside world.
Yeah, definitely.
I on a separate note, I just want to say really fast that I find phones fascinating because I feel like we're more able to actually be ourselves because we're communicating mind to mind, whereas actual social interactions, we have all these like rules and mores that we try to follow, and we basically send representatives of ourselves to each encounter, right?
Yeah.
And like this is the one that the podcast listeners get, and this is the one my wife gets, and this is who this person gets. But like if you talk to me and I am, as Dawn knows, I'm different even with Dawn than like when we would go to Dave and Buster's. You know, like he gets a much more real version of me, as much as it probably annoys the living shit out of him.
No,
you know, like
never.
I'm more willing to talk about my problems, and I'm more willing to be open and be authentic.
Yeah.
And I just want anyone listening to this who's like my age or older, man, don't just be mad that, oh, they sit in the same room as people and they're on their phone. I've had better conversations with my son in text while we're sitting in a room than he would out loud because he doesn't want to have to express certain things.
Yeah. It is much easier when it's over text or messages or anything like that. And it's nice to be able to like choose your words, really.
Yeah.
Yeah. You give a lot more thought to it. But and really the phone, or I should say the smartphone complaint is nothing more than I guess a newer version of complaining about the telephone or social clubs or anything that someone's doing that is different to the previous generation, or just somebody who doesn't have that mindset. I would much rather text than call. And this is nothing against any family that I have, but I've gotten, into it with relatives because they're like, well, you never call anybody. I'm like, or you never call me. I'm like, I never call anyone. I don't like talking on the phone because if we have messaging that's available, either text, email, whatever, I will send you my information or my part of the conversation because one, I don't want to take up 30 minutes, an hour of your day talking about something that, you can take your time digesting the conversation and things like that.
Yeah.
And I think that's what a lot of people are missing is a previous generation, and even regionally for that matter. You have people who are so used to either having the conversation. If we're in person, I'm going to talk to you a lot.
Yeah.
But you have so many people that are used to using the phone to have an extended conversation that they don't think 30, 45 minutes is like that much of a bother because it's kind of like, this gives me a chance to connect with you and talk to you, as opposed to those damn kids are just texting and tweeting and Facebooking and Instagramming. Like, they are processing so much information and learning so much.
Oh, yeah.
More than our generation or a previous generation would have had access to.
Well, I mean, that's even like, oh, sorry, I didn't realize you weren't done.
Oh,
Go
no,
ahead.
no, I was going to say, Corey's lucky enough to not have had to deal with the dial-up years. So,
oh my God. You're so lucky. So two things. Number one, I have no idea the last time I spoke to Don on the phone. Like, I would say how long have I known you? 9 years? Is that about right?
9, 10, yes, something like that.
I would say in that amount of time, I have talked to Don on the phone twice.
Wow.
I
'Cause we
remember
text.
one. Yeah. Yeah, we don't even
Yeah, I remember
text,
one because
like,
you're like, who the hell's calling me?
I remember another just because I had his phone saved as the cosplay he was wearing when I met him. And so, like, when the contact came up, I was giggling so much. I remember that one. But no, like, when you missed out on this too, Corey, it was great. When I first got a phone that could text, I was like, what would I ever use that for? That's weird. And now I'm like, why the fuck are you calling me?
Yeah.
What is wrong with you? Don't call me. Like, what if I don't know, what if I'm around people and I don't want to talk to you? And that leads me to my other point, which is I feel like a lot of times this whole they're in the room and they're not talking to people isn't about that at all. It's, oh my God, I'm left out of something.
Mhm.
Exactly.
It's, I don't know what you're doing. I'm not a part of your conversation. I don't have friends that I can do this with. I don't know. That's just how I feel it actually comes out.
I will say I hate calling people, but in quarantine, like I call people all the time. And texting is just kind of odd because I don't know. We don't really have much to talk about anymore because nothing's happening in quarantine. But
Right.
it's I don't know. I really like texting, and I think that it's weird. Like people that call that are my age, like that's just weird. Everyone my age gets weirded out by like kids that will call each other in non-quarantine circumstances.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm just picturing all these kids like terrified. Why is he calling us? What's happening? Why is my phone ringing?
Well, that's a new horror film then. The phone.
The phone
It
that
could
rang.
be the last ring you ever hear.
We'll call it The Calling.
Just a new Scream movie, but they're all like, "Why is he calling me?"
Can you imagine how great The Ring is now? Like, not only do you not watch VHS tapes, nobody picks up the phone.
Yeah.
So, like, we've defeated this monster.
But they have to be like it would be through like YouTube advertisements or something on your laptop.
Oh my God, don't give them ideas. We do not need like your phone rings and then you have to sit through a 30-second ad to talk to somebody. So to bring this back though, you know, the breaking of the phones. Like I was thinking about how Becky, when all of this is over, she doesn't have her phone anymore. Like, thank God the cops were coming because of a different way. Or like, how long would she have been out there?
Yeah.
I mean, I know the other, what's her name is there, but you know, it's kind of weird.
Well, she's not going to be really walking down the street to get anybody. But, you know, we did leave that part out, you know, with all this technology that's available to them as far as, because I doubt that there's a landline in the house because that's another thing that's just gone away. But yeah, the phones are gone. They've been destroyed. But the only other option, and it just seems like it's an accidental one, is the OnStar because she's trying to run over Dominic with a car initially, and it like some of the other things, the way she planned it didn't necessarily work out. But you know, she eventually gets to kill him. But she crashes the car. The OnStar, operator comes on and says, "Hey, we got a signal that you've been in an accident. Is everyone okay? Hello." We will be sending emergency services. And as soon as that happened, I was like, holy shit, that was a great way to fill in that part. As opposed to she has to walk, you know, a half mile or a mile and a half to the neighbor's house. It's we had OnStar in the car.
Yeah.
It set off the alarm, or at least it allowed us to have someone sent to that location.
I also thought it was a little interesting how she like didn't respond. She wasn't like, "Please help me. Someone's trying to murder me." Like she was just like left the car and didn't even respond.
Hey, she was focused. She had to kill him herself.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know. Maybe she saw Ready or Not and she knew how annoying OnStar is.
It could be worse. It could be Ophelia.
Fuck off, Justin. Oh man, Ophelia. Call the police. Two of my favorite scenes in the last couple of years there. Man. So, let's bring this back. Do either of you have anything left to add? Because my notes are totally shot.
I don't think so.
I am spent.
Cool. Well, then, Cory, I want to thank you for coming on the show. And
Yes, it was
again,
great. Thanks for.
Yeah, like your analysis has been fantastic. Like I said, you got to some of my notes before me, and that's always fun. I'm still totally blown away from your website, and I hope that everyone listening goes there. So, do you want to tell us a little bit about that again and where to find you on social media?
Sure. My website is gorycory.com. It has links to my Twitter and my Instagram, which my Twitter is Gory Horror, and I think my Instagram is Gory Cory underscore or something like that. It should be the first one to pop up if you look up Cory.
Cool. All right. So thank you once again for being here. And until next week, I am James Sabata.
And I'm Don Guillory.
And we will see you here on the Necronama.com.